drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out, oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. No drama, race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out, oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. No drama, race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RVG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. We've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out. Oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. We're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. No drama, race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. Down. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies, out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RVG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. No lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Green flag, let's go. Come on boys, it's time to put on a show. Caution's out. Oh no, to the back of the pack is where we go. Slide jobs, slide ways is how we like to spend most of our days. Bump draft, bumper hook, we knew going in that's the risk we took. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies out here with our friends living our best lives. Pedal to the metal, we've got the throttle down. RTG rolling into your town. Smooth shifting, no lifting, we're not backing down. RTG, the best drivers around. Race tough, keep it clean to the end might be enough. White flag, checker flies out here with our friends living our best.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the continuation of the 68th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Aero88 series. As here tonight, we are at the just over 2.5 mile progressively banked superspeedway known as Progressive Superspeedway. Drivers getting ready for 59 laps of superspeedway action here this evening, just 6 races away from the conclusion of the season and the crowning of a champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Jack Mitchell. And Jack, a lot of interesting different facets about this racetrack, but maybe one of the biggest thing for these drivers here tonight is the fact that they're going to have good coverage. There's Progressive plastered all over this place.
I see what you did there. Yeah, they're going to have some pretty good coverage, which they might need. I mean, we always talk a lot about how the Aero88 series cars are more, it's a series where these drivers are kind of fighting the cars or fighting the racetrack more than each other. I feel like we're going to get a pretty good mix of both here with this being a super speedway race. We don't often see these here in this series, so I'm excited to see what we have tonight.
18 drivers going to take the green flag here this evening. One of the big things you and I were discussing before we came on the air, a lot of notable drivers that are up there in the point standings. We got to remember that this series runs on classic points. There is no playoff system. It's whoever has the most points at the end of the season is crowned the champion, that are not in the field here tonight. Most notably Grant Wesley, who has won 4 of the last 5 races, I think you told me. He was second in points coming in tonight. We knew he wasn't going to be here, but some other big names as well up in the top 10 in points. No John Godfrey, no Andre Charest, no Bobby Farrell. Interesting that we don't have those drivers in the field tonight trying to use a wild card race to be able to gain a ton of points down the home stretch.
And since this is a wild card race, that kind of opens the door a little bit more for some other drivers like maybe Jeremy Jeffries to really kind of close the gap to Jeff Supta, who's currently the points leader. But for Jeff as well, it's kind of the same thing. It's a great chance for him to try to extend that points lead with his closest competition not competing in tonight's race.
It's also interesting to point out here that this is the second super speedway that these drivers are running here this season. Of the 9 completed races, 8 of those victories have been held by the top 3 in the point standings. 2 for Jeff Supta, 4 for Grant Wesley, 2 for Jeremy Jeffries. The only other driver that's gone to victory lane, Rodney Sullins, who was able to pick up a victory earlier on this season at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we know how good he is at the super speedways. Will we see one of those 4 previous drivers, or one of the 3 previous drivers that are in the field here tonight, find victory lane? Or as you said, with this being a wild card race, I mean, there's a bunch of other drivers that we see regularly on a Thursday night. Denny Carroll, Doug Hewlick, Brian Lovell, Ron Hagelin, who's starting on the pole position. Is this their opportunity? Maybe not necessarily to get themselves in the hunt for the championship, but to at least make sure that they close out this season with a 1 in the win column.
Absolutely is. I mean, that's kind of the thing that we talk about a lot when we get closer to the end of the season, but I think it's a relevant point no matter what time of the season you're bringing it up in. You know, anytime you can pick up a W is the best time to do it, because you truly never know. After this race, you could be having a season that goes kind of down the gutter. It doesn't really work out the way you want it to, and so you really might miss out on your only chance. Some drivers might feel like they are potentially missing out on their only chance to find a victory. If they can't pick up the checkered flag here tonight. So everybody going to want to try and be a little bit extra desperate for a win at a plate track where the cars are a little bit more equalized.
Not necessarily a must-win, but definitely a must-perform race here tonight for points leader Jeff Supta over the hot streak that Grant Wesley's been on over the last little over a month. He's been able to close up to 30 points on Jeff Supta coming into tonight. Now, with Grant not in the field, undoubtedly going to get provisional points, Jeff Supta is going to be looking at tonight as a golden opportunity to try and open that interval back up with 5 races left to go. But Ron Hagelin at a 51.070 going to get himself the pole position. It was actually down to 2 100ths from first to third. Brian Lovell will share the outside of the front row with Ron. Supta, he'll be third on the grid alongside of Doug Hewlick. Denny Carroll, Chris Elliott will be row number 3. Row 4, Greg Lovell and Keith Bynum. Terry Bombard, Ken Roberts will complete your top 10. The last 2 drivers to take time are your 6th row in Doug Cady and Jeremy Jeffries. The rest of the drivers elected not to take time. Random qualifying puts them in the remainder of the 6 positions. So Graham McDonald, Pat McCarthy will be in row 7. Mike Mangialardi, Jim Glaude in row 8. And making up the final row for your 18 drivers here this evening, Rodney Sullins and Cy Jones. This racetrack sponsored by Progressive, but the banking is also Progressive here, which will make for some interesting racing. Anywhere from 20 to 32.5 degrees through the corners here at this 2.58 mile super speedway. Going to be just a little south of 60 laps here tonight as Ron Hagelin brings them down the long straightaway here to the start-finish line, and race number 10 of season 68 of the Aero88 series is green.
Personally, I hope that we get a long drag race down that long front stretch at the end of this race with a lot of draft.
Yeah, our unique racetrack and the fact that kind of almost like a Talladega where the start-finish line is closer to turn 1. There's the tri-oval. Start-finish line here is practically down towards the entrance of turn 1. So as you say, could end up having a rather lengthy drag race to the stripe when the flagman has the checkered flag in hand.
This is something else that you and I were talking about before we took the green, is that this track is a little bit more unique than most other super speedways in the fact that it's the outside lane that's the preferred line here. So you're going to see a lot of those cars, like you saw with our pole sitter, Ron Hagelin, try to quickly make that jump towards the top. You can still get a run on the bottom, but the top is the preferred line.
And it did not take them very long to get up to speed. Almost 193 miles per hour going into turn 1 as the first lap completed. Ron Hagelin will net himself a valuable bonus point there. 5 valuable bonus points, I believe, since they used the classic point system here on Wednesday nights. Got a trio of drivers trying to get that inside line going, but they just don't have the numbers. Greg Lovell, Terry Bombard, Ken Roberts. Here's Denny Carroll going to step out of line from third, try and see if he can maybe make a move for the race lead.
Denny Carroll, a few moments ago down the backstretch, I think, was into the wall.
Another thing we failed to talk about in the pre-race, 3X wear for these drivers, which doesn't mean much in terms of tires, but it's going to mean an awful lot in terms of fuel. About 12 laps is the average these drivers can make it on what they started out with. So with 59 laps, if my math is correct, we're looking at least a 4-stop race if this thing goes green from start to finish.
Of course, is going to increase the importance of what happens on pit road too. We've talked about it with a lot of races here in RTG as of late, but I think it would be especially true in a 3X wear race where drivers are going to have to make the right moves, right decisions on pit road, and of course execute well on pit road too. Cannot afford any mistakes, any speeding penalties or anything like that if you're going to go onto pit road that many times.
Appear to be having a little bit of an issue of our ticker showing up on the broadcast. I can confirm it is running. I'm not sure exactly why it is currently not showing up on the live feeds. We'll see if we can get that squared away. As Denny Carroll with that inside line was able to clear for the top spot. Now he moves up to the outside line. Greg Lovell now on the inside line. Greg coming into tonight's race with a bit of momentum. This past Monday night in the regular season finale of the Bare Bones Racing Series, picked up a decisive victory at the Atlanta Motor Speedway to clinch himself a buzzer beater spot in the playoffs on Monday night. So you know he'd love to ride that momentum here this evening into his first victory on Wednesday nights in season 68.
Absolutely. Not the same series, not the same cars, but picking up a checkered flag always feels good. And when you can get more than one in rapid succession, that'll feel really good.
So trying to see if we can get this ticker situation figured out. That's all 18 drivers that took the green flag, all separated by just a little over a second. You could throw a blanket over all of them. A few drivers that started out back have made their way forward. Rodney Sullins is 6th on that inside line. That Intimidator, silver and black Rifle Coffee Chevrolet. Remember, he started this race from the 17th position inside of the final 9th row, and he's already picked up 12 spots since the drop of the green flag.
Kind of goes to show you that some drivers might not necessarily value qualifying as much at a racetrack like this, because you look at our pole sitter, Ron Hagelin, started out in front and has fallen back to 8th right now as of this last lap.
Still on that outside line there with Jeff Supta, Brian Lovell, Doug Cady up there as well. Little side-by-side racing going on for the 3rd position. Keith Bynum with a look low on Ken Roberts. Got some drafting help from Pat McCarskey. And Hagelin, I thought for a moment, looked like he was trying to get to the right rear quarter panel of Rodney Sullins. Instead, Rodney's going to move up in front of him. Rodney going to start a 3rd lane there, so we're going to be 3 wide for the 3rd position with Bynum, Roberts, and Sullins. If Sullins can get the run, he wasn't able to off of 4. Roberts will clear that entire outside line.
Terry Bombard up here as well on the bottom line. Haven't really mentioned him that often. Slowly working his way up here, looking to try and work his way into the podium. Poisons around, goes Hagelin. It's going to be a big crash.
Massive crash. There's more up here towards the front.
2 cars just flipped.
And one of them is still flipping. That being the 10 of Terry Bombard. Keith Bynum, we saw the tail end of his flip there as well. And what was looking like from the initial contact, it was going to be about 3 or 4 cars, I think. Ended up collecting about 7 or 8 cars in total, as Ken Roberts leads them back to the start-finish line, picks up the caution, and now will file behind the pace car on the back straightaway. You saw there live the 10 of Terry Bombard immediately calling for a tow, and looks like he is done for the night. One of those 2 cars that went up and over, and there is the 111 of Ron Hagelin, who I believe the incident started with, and I think when we go back and take a look at a replay, I think bumper grab definitely came into play on that outside line.
It certainly felt like a bumper grab moment. I feel like it was a commentator jinx moment. I think I might have cursed Terry Bombard there.
See if we can go back and take a look at exactly what happened. We'll focus the camera on the 111 of Ron Hagelin, and we'll take this off of turn number 2. Watch the 38 of Rodney Sullins right there. Goes down a little bit, and as he comes back up, I think Hagelin was just to his back bumper. That slight movement by the 38, bumper grabs the 111 up into the wall, and it was on from there. Some pretty significant contact with the back end of Hagelin's Coca-Cola machine, and then we'll take a look at what occurred behind him with those drivers that ended up going up and over. We'll focus the camera here on the 10 of Terry Bombard.
I watched this live. Look at how much air these guys get.
Wow.
The
Oh
rear tires.
my.
Yeah. I mean, the rear tires were already elevating there for Bombard, and then you see the 63 went for a big ride. That's Keith Bynum. Obviously, you saw the way he landed and skidded on his roof. I'm pretty sure. I think Bynum also took it behind the garage.
You saw Brian Lovell sliding, Jeremy Jeffries involved. Mike Mangialardi might have gotten a piece as well. Seems like there's enough runoff there on the inside of the back straightaway, but when you're carrying as much speed as these drivers were, that space runs out pretty quick. And unfortunately, that inside wall comes up on you, bears down on you faster than you expect. Here's another look from the aerial view. Jeff Supta also got a piece in that. The points leader, Doug Cady. Graham McDonald also went around, so a few other drivers getting bits and pieces of this wreck. Certainly not to the extent of Hagelin, Bombard, and Bynum. Should be able to continue, I believe, up to speed, but again, there's always that question mark. Super speedways are awfully finicky as to how much damage you sustain, how that's going to affect you for the remainder of the race.
It's just kind of one of those classic super speedway wrecks in a sense, where it's just one little spark in the powder keg is all it takes, and all those guys just couldn't avoid it. That one big crash in the middle of that pack, and everybody was kind of nice and tight together to start this race too, so I wouldn't rule out that this ultimately leads to the field being a little bit more spread out here once we get going again.
Well, the lights are on out on the pace car. I was going to say we were going to quickly try and go to an FRN race break to give me the opportunity to try and figure out why the ticker is not loading up, at least on the live feed. According to the 3 windows I've got, it is currently running. For some reason, it is not transferring over onto the stream end. So hopefully we'll end up getting a point here where I'm able to maybe do an entire reset, a restart of the ticker here. But for the moment, drivers are going to double up. Oh, we do have the lights back on the pace cars. So we are just going to real quickly, we're going to step aside for a race break. Stick with us, folks. We're going to do a reset of the ticker. Hopefully have that fix the issue, resolve the issue, and be back to the action here from Progressive Super Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Our coverage will return right after this. Well, we are back green here at Progressive Super Speedway. Did a restart of the ticker, did a refresh of the web browser, and still not having any success. So, unfortunately, we are not able to have the normal ticker up. I don't know if necessarily this is going to bring up a ticker that's visible or not. Oh yeah, it is. So I guess we could use this ticker
There
here.
you go.
It's not the best ticker, but I guess it's what we've got for the time being here
The
tonight.
old-fashioned way.
Yeah, there you go.
Like everybody with their offline series used to run the default ticker in the game. I guess it'll do for now, though.
A little throwback, I guess, if you will. At least there's a backup contingency plan here, as we ended up having that caution come out, and we had that extra lap of pacing, and you said as we were trying to get the ticker to work, just about everybody made the dive back onto pit road, undoubtedly for fuel, trying to extend it here, because we literally, before that caution came out, I think we were about 2 laps away from when these drivers were going to have to make the dive.
Yeah, everybody pitted on the first lap under yellow and then immediately went right back to pit road on the last lap before we went back green. So a lot of drivers definitely thinking about the fuel strategy early and often in this race. One driver hurt by that a little bit was the 55 of Ken Roberts, too. He probably took a speeding penalty on pit road, we would assume. He was forced to restart or at the end of the longest line.
As you documented, Keith Bynum and Terry Bombard both involved massively in that wreck, out of the race. Looks like Cy Jones has currently scored 1 lap down in the 7. So he would be in a lucky dog position if we were to get any future yellows. And Doug Hulick out in front, showing the way in this race. We double check and see where Doug's at. 15th in the point standings coming into tonight. Has raced in 5 of the previously 9 completed races. 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s in those 5 starts. And looking maybe for his first victory of season 68 here tonight. Right behind him, Jeremy Jeffries, one of our former winners on the season. You know, we talk about Supta here tonight with no Wesley in the field, trying to open up the gap. For Jeremy Jeffries, with no Wesley in the field, he's looking to close up the gap. He was 124 points behind Grant Wesley, 154 points behind Jeff Supta, former 2-time winner on the season. Tonight, a 3rd victory could be a golden opportunity for him to maybe make a late season surge down the home stretch.
Absolutely. A couple of other drivers, too, would want to probably try and take that chance as well, with Ron Hagelin. Doug Cady as well is up here. He's 5th in the points. Other than that, off the top of my head, I can't think of too many other names that are really high up in the point settings that are not in the field here. So, as you said, great chance for a lot of these guys. But that's the problem with this race being at more of a wild card track. It can make it a little bit easier for some of these guys to find their way up in the conversation for the race win, but you can also have an easier time if you're a driver that's a bit lower in the points, might not really be competing for the championship. As we said at the top of the show, just looking to try to pick up at least 1 checkered flag before the end of the season.
Yeah, not a lot of pressure on those drivers either, of not having to really worry about points. All you got to do is go out there, try and position yourself, make the moves to get the checkered flag. It's the top 6 single file. Battle side by side here is for 7th, and kudos to the 111 team on pit road. They did a great job of repairing that back bumper. It was all pushed in after Hagelin backed it into the inside wall in the back straightaway. That thing looks like it's as good as new, and apparently, as we can see, is still fully up to speed, still competitive. So still a chance for Ron Hagelin to go coast to coast, pole to win here tonight.
Moderate damage on these Aero88 cars is not that difficult to fix. I can speak from experience. I recently ran in with you as well in that special event Aero88 race that we had, and had a couple of moments where my rear end was bashed in like that, but was able to get fixed up on pit road.
When you said speaking from experience, I was going to say, did you get out of your car and bang it with a hammer yourself?
Not real world experience.
All right. As we hit the line, 40 laps to go in this race. We went back green at the completion of lap 13. So if you're looking at a target lap of when we might see these drivers back on pit road, somewhere between laps 25 to 26. And this is a unique pit road as well. Not sure if the camera shot will show it here as they make their way through 3 and 4, but down in the center of these corners, there is an access road. And you have to make your way onto said access road. You saw that yellow barrel, that's the start of the access road. But you can maintain a high rate of speed all the way around through turn 4 until you get up to the exit of turn 4 where the pit stalls begin. That's where the commitment line is. That's where the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit begins. So drivers have the opportunity to maybe be a little bit more aggressive on pit road entry. The one thing that I was going to be really curious about, though, is we see at Daytona, Talladega, how drivers have to orchestrate where they're going to be to not run each other over. Certainly you would have to think a lot of orchestration goes into riding around that banked access road to make sure nobody makes contact before they eventually all get on the brakes, getting up to the pit road commitment line.
Absolutely, and that brings up another thing, which would be a good point at a track like this, too, is the coordination between drivers when they decide to come to pit road and who do they decide to pit with, because you don't want to pit by yourself on a track like this. You're going to be by yourself, not have any drafting friends, so you want to at least have buddies with you when you make your way to pit road, but then when you do, it's that careful coordination that you were just talking about.
I mentioned about the fact that 12 laps is about the number that drivers can go. If they're in the draft, you might be able to go 13 laps, but the driver out in front right now, Doug Hulick, there's no way he's going to be able to reach that 13th lap because he is creating the draft for everybody else behind him. He is using the most fuel in being the race leader. Took the opportunity to go out there, run some laps. I actually had that bright green 007 of Doug Cady, who's battling now for the 4th position as my wingman for most of that run, but I was the lead car. Went about 12 laps, was at 2 fuel pressure by the time I made it to my pit stalls. So it is a gamble that you probably will lose if you lead the lengthy portion of a run and try and stretch it that extra 13th lap. So Hulick, I think we will safely be able to say, is going to be on pit road within the next 2 laps. Everybody else might be able to go that extra 3rd lap, but might not be willing to risk it.
Like just migrated his way to the bottom of the racetrack. I would not be surprised to see radios start lighting up at some point soon as 72 car, Jim Glaude, trying to make his way on the pit road. He will do so, so he'll be the first person to do it. But again, as we talked about, when it by himself, Doug Hill, like that was a late entry onto that access road.
I don't think he's going to make it. Yeah, he got out into the grass, and once you get in the grass, the car will not turn. He's going to miss pit road entry.
Yeah, I think he made the decision a little bit late to make his dive on the pit road, and that's going to leave both of those cars. Just like I was talking about earlier, you cannot go to pit road by yourself. You're not going to have any drafting help, but radios are letting up, so I think a lot of drivers getting ready to make their way on a pit road this time by.
Yeah, we saw Glaude go down below the WL line, the back straightaway to get to the access road. You can actually go low in the center of 3 and 4, as now we see Brian Lovell way down there. Ooh, that car, all sorts of slideways. And here come a bunch more. Jeremy Jeffries is in. Graham McDonald, Chris Elliott, that's too high. Chris is going to go back out onto the racetrack. Overcooked it on that progressive banking of the apron. Is about, looks like 8, maybe 9 drivers here in this pack are all going to safely make it out there. And, you know, for Hulick and Chris Elliott as well, you scrub off so much speed trying to make sure the car doesn't spin in the grass. You lose time in that regard as well, regardless if you came to pit road with some friends or not.
I'd be willing to say maybe that's the reason why a couple cars tried to make their way onto that access road in the middle of the backstretch rather than in the middle of 3 and 4, because that would give you a little bit more time perhaps to kind of slow the car down and make sure you don't make those mistakes and end up in the grass while you're trying to make your way on the pit road.
4 drivers stayed out right there. They'll hit pit road this lap. Carroll, Mangialardi, Hagelin, and McCarskey. Very easy to hot pit onto this pit road. You see drivers slam on the brakes, get it woed down to 55 miles per hour, then pick the throttle back up. You see that group that was on pit road the lap prior leaving. Looks like a good portion of them all being able to leave together there with Jeffries, McDonald, Sullins, Brian and Greg Lovell. A couple of others back behind them as well. So it looks like they did a pretty good job orchestrating getting on and off pit road, all leaving together the same way that they entered.
How about Brian Lovell, too? He was able to make his way up here with that pit stop cycle, got himself up near the front of this. So if this pack ultimately does cycle out to be the race leaders, he should find himself in a pretty good spot.
You can see right there, those three cars lined up of Graham McDonald, Rodney Sullins, Greg Lovell, how quickly they closed up on Jeremy Jeffries. Another thing that I noticed in practice, we call it in super speedway racing terms, the suck up. When you're in the tow of somebody else's draft, how quickly you're able to get up to their back bumper. There is a tremendous amount of suck up with this track and car and setup combination. So I'm not necessarily certain in the closing stages of this race, if you want to be that lead car, you might be a proverbial sitting duck with the way that the draft has been able to work here tonight.
Yeah, look at how tight these guys are running at the front. This is a very, very close battle, and you don't want to make any mistakes just by yourself right here because it could lead to an easy chain reaction.
Looks like we're going to have 7 cars up in this lead group. Back to the 11 of Jeff Supta. They're going to catch the 23 of Doug Hewlick and put him, I believe, a lap down. Yep, he was just barely on the tail end of the lead lap, so now he'll fall -1 to the race leaders. Got a gap from Supta back to Denny Carroll, who was hoping he'd be able to merge back out with the lead pack. Ken Roberts back behind him in the 9th position. Those two should be able to tandem up together. Mike Mangialardi also by his lonesome. Jim Glaude. Got a couple of drivers that have got themselves lined up in a trio here with Ron Hagelin, Chris Elliott, and lap car of Cy Jones. But, you know, much like we end up seeing at speedways when drivers have issues on pit road, the issues we just saw here, drivers losing the lead pack on this cycle of green flag pit stops, I think that we're going to have an ever-growing list of drivers that want to see a caution to get themselves back into the conversation.
Oh, look at this. A couple drivers at the very front of the field trying to make their way on the bottom around the leaders. More drafting help on the top, though, and I think Jeremy Jeffries was thinking about making a move to the bottom to try to block, but couldn't quite get the job done.
Only 2 cars down there. They don't have the numbers, do the levels. Now they'll pick up the lap car of Doug Hewlick. Let's see if 3 cars in the bottom can fight against 4 cars on the top. We were told the top side was going to be the preferred lane here all race long. Gets a better run off the corner down the straightaways, and at least for the moment, we're seeing that Jeremy Jeffries, with help from Graham McDonald, are being able to do just that. Greg was able to get up alongside of Jeremy, but now is faded back to side-by-side for 4th about a lap and a half later.
You mentioned Hewlick being a lap at the 23, but he is still up to speed, and he's done a good job of staying attached to this lead pack here, and that's like that could be a beneficial moment for the 23, because if he ends up getting back up into the lead, that's his way of getting a lap back here, and then if the caution were to come out, he'd be back on the lead lap, I believe.
You know, we talked about Jeff Supta here tonight with an opportunity to open up his points lead in the overall standings on Grant Wesley. Well, Doug Cady, who's 3rd now after that cycle of pit stops, opportunity to do the exact same thing in the Challenger points. Picked up the Challenger win last week under the lights at Richmond. Came into this race 13 points up on John Godfrey. Godfrey is not in the field tonight, so Doug Cady with a big opportunity not only to pick up another Challenger win this season, but extend that points lead with 5 races left to go in the season. We're going to real quickly here take the ticker away. We're going to bring up the blank ticker just because I have this graphic on the live ticker here. But this is a look at the point standings coming into this race. You can see the gap from Supta and Wesley, who were 30 points separated, back to triple digits with Jeremy Jeffries. Ron Hagelin over 200 points back. Doug Cady, a distant fifth, almost 300 points back. So at least for the moment, it is looking like a two-horse race. And it will be interesting to see, with no Grant Wesley in the field here tonight, just exactly what the point standings look like between the 11 and the 88, with 5 races left to go in this season. And speaking of those 5 races, this is where they're going to be. We'll be covering the season finale for these drivers next month, but by the time we get there, they'll have been at Pikes Peak, Pocono, Watkins Glen, and RTG Superspeedway, which is a superspeedway only in name. We kind of talked about this last night during the iRacing broadcast. It's got the length of a superspeedway. It doesn't drive much like a superspeedway, but a lot of really interesting tracks there, including a road course. It will be interesting to see just what kind of a battle we're going to have on our hands when we eventually cover their finale at Edgewater on August the 12th.
Yeah, that should be really interesting to see how this shakes up amongst the top 3. I think Jeremy Jeffries will be a little bit more motivated to try to get this win and at the very least make it a closer gap. But I mean, Jeff Supta as well, we said that he's trying to increase his points gap between himself and Grant Wesley. And Jeff up here running in the conversation right now so far for this checkered flag. I mean, this could quite get closer here as we get towards the end of the season. And again, you know that Jeremy Jeffries right now, the way he's leading the field, he is more than determined to try to make sure he picks up this checkered flag and kind of lets Jeff and Grant know, hey, I'm still here. I'm still in this fight.
Trying to maybe as well see if he can get that extra 5 bonus points for leading the most laps here this evening. As we've got a pack of 8 cars, 7 of them on the lead lap. The trailing car of Doug Hewlett, currently the first car 1 lap down, would be in the lucky dog position. But before we had that cycle of pit stops, we had about 13, 14 drivers up in the lead pack. And different drivers with different mistakes definitely split the field up. There's no guarantee. Obviously, these drivers did a great job of getting onto pit road and off of pit road together. But we're not that far away from when they're going to have to make another dive to pit road, and the lead group could get even smaller by the time that cycle concludes.
Also not going to help, too, that these guys are kind of side by side. That's going to slow them down and make it a little bit harder for them to go on the pit road. That's going to kind of change the dynamic of it a little bit because you know they're going to want to try and get single file again once they all start declaring that they're going to make their way onto pit road.
Graham McDonald making the move for the race lead. Got some assistance from Greg Lovell and Rodney Sullins on that inside line. Graham so far this season has only run in 2 races, part-time schedule, 1 top 10 in those first 2 races. Overall 27th in the point standings. Again, one of those drivers we talked about that don't have to worry about the championship. They just have to basically focus on this race and this race alone. No points to have to worry about at all. Rodney Sullins right behind him, looking for his second win on the season after winning at Indianapolis, getting to kiss the bricks earlier on this season. And I think, if my calculations are correct, we're looking about the next lap or 2 when these drivers are going to have to hit pit road once again for the second time under green flag conditions.
They all just single filed up at the lead of the field. I was watching this one on board from Jeremy Jeffries' point of view, and it looked like he is in very much fuel-saving mode because he just dropped all the way from the front to the rear end of this lead pack.
Remember, he led a good portion of this run, so making sure that he can pit with everybody else. No, but he's going to have to come pit road this time. I think he was hoping he'd be able to pit with that group, but they can go further than he can. He has to come to pit road all by his lonesome, and it will be very interesting to see with him pitting and seemingly leaving pit road with no draft assistance if he will be up in the lead pack once this cycle is complete. Also saw the 72 of Jim Gloud on pit road.
And I'm thinking that maybe Jeremy thought that he could make it to the end of this green flag run with the rest of everybody else, but when he was in the lead for as long as he was, he's using up so much more of his stuff, so he probably figured that maybe if he dropped to the back, he would still have enough to be able to pit with everybody, but I think he just ran out and decided to go for it as contact with the inside wall is the 38 car. Rodney Solins really having a little bit of a disaster there by himself on the entry to pit road.
But that pit road is, I think, just based off the grooves, about maybe 7 lanes wide, and I think they used all 7 of those lanes spread out amongst 7 different cars, all able to make their way down. Trying to see if there's an angle we can look at the left side of Rodney Sullivan's machine. I don't see any visible damage on that car after you mentioned that contact with the inside wall. Something else that's interesting watching a number of these drivers. Normally when we're at a super speedway, specifically when we watch these drivers at Talladega on Thursday nights, it's usually fuel only, no tires. They're going all the way around, putting some fresh Goodyear on these machines. I almost wonder if the progressive banking is leading to some tire wear that we normally don't see at other super speedways.
Could be. That might be a factor, or it could just be these drivers maybe feel they're a little bit more safe by getting fresh tire.
Rodney Sullivan's team gets the job done on pit road. He's going to lead this group off of pit lane, followed by Graham McDonald and Jeff Supta. We'll have to see if Jeremy Jeffries is able to merge back with this group after he pit by himself. Looks like he's going to. So, wow, great execution on pit road for him, even though he was all by his lonesome. Nice up-to-speed lap. And, you know, if you'd asked me if he was going to have an opportunity of staying with the lead group after the cycle, I would have said probably not. But made a liar out of me. Great job there by Jeremy, who's going to cycle around into the 5th position. I think I also saw, just at the conclusion of these pit stops, the 55 of Ken Roberts, yes, has retired from the race. So he's going to get credited for the 16th position here tonight, going to join Keith Bynum and Terry Bombard in the garage area.
Not totally sure what happened to the 55 there. The only incident I can really recall was that he had the penalty to go to the end of the longest line for speeding on pit road. Here we go, nearly contact for the lead. Solon's on the inside of Graham McDonald.
Brian Lovell back in, so might have gotten hit with a speeding penalty. And that 44 car, tough break for him, up in this lead group all night long. Going to be another driver. Add them to the list of those that want to see a caution to save their race, as we're now down to a half dozen drivers in this lead pack. And oh, by the way, in case you were all wondering, yep, at least one more trip to pit road for these drivers that will more than likely be within the 10 laps to go window. Most of these drivers concluded their pit stops around lap 38. So we're talking roughly about lap 50, somewhere in that range where drivers will make that final pit stop if we continue to trend green, which is just a little south of what the fuel window is too. So there's about, what, maybe 1 to 2 laps of wiggle room where you could come down pit road and right when the fuel window opens, or you could go a couple laps further. I'm honestly not certain. I don't think there's much in it. I feel that whether you pit with 10 to go or 12 to go, you're probably still going to have to take on 2 cans of fuel. So it will make things really interesting in terms of the strategy here if this final pit stop is under green.
And there's a handful of drivers that are hoping it's not under green. A lot of people might want this field to get a little bit more stacked up here. And with not a whole lot of cars in this lead pack, I mean, we're down to 6 drivers right now as this lead pack stands. And if all 6 of them end up staying up here at the end of the race, We've got a lot of room to drag race down the long front stretch.
You have to wonder too, though, with us losing more and more cars. I mentioned about how good the suck-up is with this setup, but I almost wonder with less cars in the pack, certainly we know that usually it changes the energy. More cars you have behind you, the better opportunity you have for draft and being able to create runs. I mean, you saw right there, Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries tried something from 5th and 6th, and it was almost like they hit a wall of air that sent them backwards.
And they have to get back up in line with everybody else. I mean, that can be pretty frustrating, too, if you're those guys, because then it just kind of makes you wonder, what do I have to do to try to work my way back up to the lead?
It's also interesting, as you look at the 6 drivers in this lead pack, 50% of them are battling up inside the top 5 in the overall standings. Supta, Katie, and Jeffries. The other 3 are all out here trophy hunting. None of them are even inside of the top 30 in the overall standings. So different drivers with different agendas. 3 of them basically can have the bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel mentality. The other 3, they have to still big picture race in terms of making sure that they leave here tonight, if not with the trophy, with at least as many points as they can possibly garner.
That is a great point. You definitely don't want to find yourself in this situation where if you are big picture racing, you end up having a brief moment or something that ends up leading to a caution or leading to your car being wrecked, more importantly, because then that just completely takes you out of the conversation for the win, but that also hurts you in the point standings and sets you back.
See Rodney and Jeremy trying that move on the inside line again, not finding much success, and people might be wondering, well, if they're not necessarily making forward progress, why do they keep doing that? There's a very easy explanation for it. They're bored.
Trying whatever they can, I guess.
That's right.
Not really going to help these guys at least go for the lead, but they're probably at least just trying to do what they can to stay attached to the lead pack here, because obviously with these guys having to make at least one more pit stop, as long as they stay attached to this pack, that's really all that matters.
Well, remember, I believe Rodney was either the 2nd or 3rd place car when that last pit stop cycle began. And when they left pit road, he was the leader of the group. So many times I've talked with drivers on Thursday nights when we end up seeing them make moves right on the eve of pit stops. And I say, well, why are you making those moves? Why aren't you just riding in line and waiting until you make the dive to pit road? And so many times they've told me that 1 or 2 extra positions on the racetrack can actually translate to 3 or 4 positions after the pit stop cycle is completed. So drivers like Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries, yes, I think partially they are bored and they're kind of testing the waters with what these runs can do, but they're also thinking ahead that, hey, we're 5th and 6th, but if we can find ourselves 3rd and 4th when these pit stops begin, we could maybe find ourselves cycled out to 1st and 2nd once the pit stop cycle is complete.
Makes me quite curious if they're going to pit together, although I feel like that might be an obvious yes, considering they keep trying these moves to the low side together.
Now remember,
they're on the high side.
Now remember we saw Jeremy leading the last run and had to come to pit road all by himself. Well, Graham McDonald has been the lead car for this run. So one would assume he's going to have to pit 1 lap sooner than everybody else behind him. The question is, when he comes to pit road, is he going to drag everybody there with him? As now we see Supta and Katie jump into the outside, so I'm almost wondering if the 33 might be pitting this time around.
Oh, contact. They're 3 wide.
Greg Lovell, Doug Katie rubbing some doors there going into 3. About roughly 2 to 3 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to make that final pit stop, which we usually call the money stop. This is more than likely going to be the pit stop that's going to determine whether you're going to be in the conversation for this victory or not. We started this race out with 18 drivers. Have only had 1 caution so far here tonight, but a bunch of drivers have had pit road issues getting onto pit lane. or having to pit by themselves due to maybe some alternative strategies on fuel. And we're left with a half dozen drivers currently that are still in the hunt for this checkered flag.
That's, I think, the one thing that we're really going to have to keep an eye out for in this last pit stop cycle is what these drivers do in terms of their execution getting onto pit road. You cannot afford to have any mistakes at this late stage of the race.
And to that end, I'm going to be very interested to see that last pit stop. We saw them take on tires. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to go with either right sides only or no tires at all, because you don't want to run the risk of your pit crew maybe making a mistake changing tires on this final stop.
Top two have just signaled that they are on their way to pit road. Make that a top three. And here they go.
So half of those top six, McDonald, Sullins, Jeffries, coming to pit road together. Looks like they're all going to make it on safely. Wow, that was a deep entry there for Rodney Sullins, same as he did on the last pit stop. No wonder he was able to cycle out to the race lead once the cycle was completed. So they are on an alternative strategy, 1 lap earlier pitting than Greg Lovell, Jeff Supta, and Doug Cady, who do have some cars to draft with here on this potential in-lap. Brian Lovell and Chris Elliott in their group. And here they all come, along with the lap car of Brian Lovell.
Top three are just now making their way off of pit road. Oh, boy.
Doug Cady side-swiping Greg Lovell. Had just enough space between him and the outside wall. Lovell around. Going to get it refired, but that's going to cost him more than likely an opportunity of cycling around in the lead pack.
Going to be a lot of extra time spent on pit road. Yeah, to your point, really going to set him back in terms of the conversation for being in the lead pack, let alone this checkered flag.
We saw that great entry by Rodney Sullins, maybe too great of an entry. Look at how far out ahead he's going to be of Jeremy Jeffries, and then another 10 car lengths or so back to Graham McDonald. This is not the scenario these three drivers wanted, because it's going to take them some time to get lined back up again. They all wanted to leave as soon as possible with each other so they could form up into a 3-car tandem. Let's see about that second group here. Looks like Supta, Cady going to leave with each other, and they'll have Brian Lovell as well. It's really going to, I think, come down to who gets organized the quickest.
Yeah, this is not what you wanted if you're the top three at all, because on the one hand, you have good track position, but on the other hand, with this being the type of racetrack as it is, they're going to be caught up to very quick on the cars behind them, and it could be sitting ducks.
Sullins with a big run here. Looks like Jeremy Jeffries and Graham McDonald have caught his draft. They're going to go to the outside of Doug Cady. This would cycle around the battle for second. Denny Carroll did stay out an extra lap, so he'll get a bonus point. I think he had already led a previous lap. I might be mistaken. So this might be his second lap led here tonight, but he'll come to pit road by his lonesome. There he is. And now we're down to 5. As Sullins around the outside with help from Jeremy Jeffries. He'll go to the race lead, and the next time we hit the stripe, there will be 7 laps to go here tonight at Progressive Superspeedway.
This is exactly what all these guys have been working for, to be in this position at this point in the race. Pit stops, pit road, no longer a factor. And we're not that far away either from that point of no return, where if a caution were going to come out, the race would be over.
Drivers should all be able to make it on fuel from this point out. Believe the point of no return in this race would be at the completion of lap 56. We're about 4 laps away from that. That would be where a caution would end the race. So far here today, only 1 yellow flag, which has been great for us to be able to follow the strategy of green flag pit stops. Has been maybe frustrating for drivers that have had mistakes throughout this race and not had a yellow flag to be able to bail them out. 5 drivers still in the conversation, and keep an eye on the 44 of Brian Lovell, that blue car, 6th in line, and even the car back behind them, the yellow number 9 of Chris Elliott. If he can draft up here, those 2 cars are off the lead lap, but boy, could they be X factors and maybe helping push somebody to a victory here tonight.
This is about as tense as it gets.
Now tomorrow night, we'll be seeing 16 drivers lock themselves into the playoffs for Season 68 of the Talladega Challenge Series. A lot of those drivers in the battle for this victory here tonight would love to ride that wave of momentum into the regular season finale tomorrow evening. Sullins and Jeffries both looking for Sullins his 2nd win in the season, for Jeremy his 3rd. Supta in the 4th position, also looking for his 3rd. For Graham McDonald and Doug Cady, they're looking for the 1st win of the season for them. I'd have to go back, see if I could do some research. It might be the 1st win of their careers on Wednesday nights if they can get it done. They're 3rd and 5th. Two big questions are, how long do you wait? And if you make the move, will you have someone going with you? Supta trying to the outside for 3rd. He's got Doug Cady up there to offer help. Chris Elliott has now caught up to this group. He's trying to offer a little bit of draft up in that outside line as well.
Your earlier point just now, as Jeremy Jeffries gets up in line to block that run. That thought, I almost wonder if Jeremy might be trying to move to the low side. Not quite yet, but I feel like he's kind of fighting the urge to run low. I mean, you want to wait a little bit to make your move, but you don't want to wait forever, because obviously you'd like to have a chance at making the move and not really giving your opponent much of a chance to fight back. But at the same time, if the caution comes out and you're the leader, you're going to win the race.
And again, big picture racing for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all in the top 5 in the standings. Supta trying to grow his advantage over Grant Wesley. Jeffries trying to close up the gap. Got to keep in mind the 38 has a lot less to lose here tonight than you do, as he's going to make that rear bumper as wide as he possibly can. Also consider as well, if this race were to end under yellow, unlike a Daytona where the start-finish line's in the middle of the tri-oval and you maybe don't have as much time to be able to make a move. You mentioned this long front straightaway and the start-finish line down near the end of it. So there might be plenty of time for a driver 2nd, 3rd, 4th, if a caution were to come out, to be able to make that move off of 4 and get enough momentum down the straightaway.
Jeremy Jeffries all by himself on the bottom. Looked like he was maybe hoping for a little bit of help, didn't get any. He's going to drop to the end of this line here.
Now Supta moves into 2nd, going to show the nose to the right rear quarter panel. Cady has stayed committed to him and may push him to the race lead. He'll actually lead that lap. Will driver number 11, 2 to go.
Great spot right now for Jeff Supta, but he's not out of the woods yet. If he were to hold on to this lead, that would be big in terms of expanding his points lead over Grant Wesley. Couple cars now moving to the bottom.
Sullins and Jeffries trying something down there. Rodney will get alongside of Graham McDonald for 3rd. Cady trying to block both lanes there off of 4. As this time by, Jeff Supta will see the white flag. Graham McDonald now to the inside for 2nd.
Donald trying to fight on the inside. Doesn't have quite the run, though. Almost wonder if Doug Cady might try to make a move late here.
Keep an eye on the 38 and the 1. There's a bit of a gap. They're going to have a heck of a run down the back straightaway here.
They were setting them up for it.
Rodney make the move. Will he dive to the inside? Will he try and go to the outside here? He's going to go up top. Coming out of 4, got that lengthy straightaway. Can they make something happen in 3rd and 4th here down the final stretch?
At some point, someone's going to have to try and make a move. Jeff Supta, though, has the preferred line.
Oh, look at the run. Sullins is coming. Not quite going to get there. Wow, that was a heck of a try by Rodney Sullins, but just ran out of racetrack. And Jeff Supta is going to pick up his 3rd victory on the season. He'll extend his points lead. Scoring is showing the top 4 all cross the start-finish line, separated by less than 100th.
Absolutely insane. And to your point, I feel like if there was just a little bit more racetrack, if the start-finish line was maybe a couple more inches in front of them, I think the 38 wins this race. It was that close between these two, but heck of a win for Jeff Supta. This is exactly what he wanted going into this thing, is he'll extend his points lead over an absent Grant Wesley here tonight. Big result for that 11 team.
3 different racetrack configurations that Supta's gone to victory lane at this season as well. Kicked off the season with the victory at the short track of Evergreen. Took the checkers at the road course of Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And now burning it down here at the Super Speedway of Progressive. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's 3 for 4 in going to victory lane in our broadcasted races here in Season 68. So, not saying we're the good luck charm, but maybe.
I'm not going to say we're not the good luck charm. Because if we are the good luck charm, then maybe he'll want us to do more races.
That's true.
And I would not mind seeing a little bit more action out of this Aero88 series. Obviously, I think we're not calling anymore until the finale, but this is going to be a tight battle for the championship still. Knowing Jeff Supta, too, he's a guy who I know that in seasons past, we've talked to him while he's had the championship lead, and he's talked about how he does not feel comfortable until he knows the season is over and the championship is officially mathematically locked up. So you know that even though he increased the gap over Grant Wesley tonight, he's going to be feeling that pressure. And you know, Grant, if he does make his return at some point soon, he's going to be a little bit more motivated to try to close the gap once again.
Absolutely. And still plenty of time to do so as well, with a lot of unique racetracks still to come to close out the season. As this is your freeze frame of how close that was at the start-finish line. 3/100ths is what the unofficial scoring is showing, of Supta getting his 3rd win, denying Sullins his 2nd victory on the season. And the front 5 cars you see there, all going to net top 5s with Katie, Jeffries, and Graham McDonald. Your top 5 here tonight, all executing on pit road, which kept them in the conversation for this victory.
Yeah, the full in-game scoring, it shows the finishing interval at .028, so even less than .03. That was insane.
Wild finish here tonight at Progressive Super Speedway. We're going to be, in just a moment, talking with our top 3 finishers. We gave you the top 5 that are all there in that race winner's shot. Greg Lovell, who had that incident on pit road on the final pit stop, will finish in 6th. Ron Haglund started on the pole. He had an issue getting onto pit lane, as did Jim Gloud. They'll finish in 7th and 8th, along with Mike Mangialardi, Denny Carroll. Looks like those 4 were able to hook up in the closing stages, all netting top 10 finishes tonight. 3 drivers will finish off the lead lap: Brian Lovell, Cy Jones, and Doug Hulick. And 5 drivers did not reach the conclusion of this race: Chris Elliott, Pat McCarskey, Ken Roberts, and then Terry Bombard, Keith Bynum retiring out of the race after our only caution in this one that happened back around lap number 10. Green flag from that 1 race restart. The conclusion of this race that saw 3 trips to pit road under green flag conditions, and it really came down to who was able to execute and not make mistakes as to who was still going to be in the hunt at the conclusion of this one. Well, that's going to take us into our FRN post-race wind-down. And let's see if we can dial up our top 3 finishers on the evening. It's going to be another challenger victory for this driver and a podium finish here tonight as well. Let's dial up the challenger points leader, Doug Cady.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Doug, it's the
channel.
guys up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
Go ahead.
Great run for you here tonight at the Progressive Super Speedway. You've had an incredibly consistent season, 5th in the overall standings, leading the Challenger standings as well. Podium finish here tonight. It looked like, at least in the laps leading up to the final one, you were fully committed to the 11, getting the both of you up to first and second, but once that white flag waves, everybody wants to be the first one back to the checkered flag. Did you have a strategy formulated of when to make a move to try and see if you could snipe the victory here tonight?
No. Team player.
Coming into tonight, had a 13-point gap over John Godfrey, and I mentioned about the fact that, for you, the 1, the 11, big picture racing here tonight, making sure that you left with as many points as possible. The driver that was second in those Challenger standings, not in the field here tonight. Still 5 races to go, but how does it feel with the good run tonight to maybe have some breathing space going into next week?
Oh, it feels awesome. It was a good race. I got a lot of good friends helping me through this, so it was awesome to help to get to the finish.
A very unique pit road, especially on how to get onto it with that long, winding, high-speed access road. We had only that one caution tonight, all the other pit stops under green flag conditions. How easy, difficult did you find it to execute each one of those green flag pit stops to ensure that you were going to cycle around still up in that lead group and still in the hunt for the victory tonight?
It was pretty easy getting on and off pit road. I didn't find much of a challenge there. I just tried to stay focused.
Well, a tremendous run for you here tonight, Doug. Congratulations on your podium this evening. Going to open up that points gap for the Challenger Championship with 5 races left to go here in the season. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I'd like to thank you guys for airing our races, and I'd like to thank our race league for putting a good thing together, and all the admins do such a great job.
Well, that's Doug Cady, 3rd place here tonight at Progressive Super Speedway. Congratulations on the job well done, and best of luck here on the home stretch of this season of the Aero88 series.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your night. God bless you.
Doug Cady, who
knows,
in about 5 weeks' time, we might be interviewing as the season 68 Challenger champion. Certainly took a big step towards that here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up the driver that finished runner-up in that photo finish, Rodney Sullins. Hey, Rodney, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I sure do, fellas. How you doing?
Well, man, we talked about the uniqueness of this racetrack and the positioning of the start-finish line, practically down towards the entrance of Turn 1. A lot of room to be able to maneuver from Turn 4 down to the checkers. Looks like you need it just a little bit further towards the entrance of Turn 1 there. Almost picking up this victory here tonight. We saw you be one of the best in executing the entrance of pit road, getting out in front, maybe a little too out in front on that final pit stop, but what little more did you need to be able to get Jeff at the line? Because we saw you and Jeremy experimenting with the runs there at the tail end of the pack, even before that final pit stop cycle.
Yeah, I got a little too close to them in 1 and 2, and I wanted to draft that hole all the way down the back stretch to the front. I went up checking on the back stretch a little bit because I wanted to get the run on the front, because I had a feeling if I went high, which a lot of people were making passes high tonight, that it would have just been me and Jeremy, and the other guys would have dove low. I probably would have done the same. So I tried to time it to get by him, because I've lost 2 races here by being in Jeff's spot. So I just didn't time it up enough tonight. But yeah, that was interesting earlier. I don't know if you guys caught it some, but I was doing the old, I believe it was Ricky Stenhouse at Daytona. I was in the back after I got shuffled back, and I would go and pass. I would dip down after going into a corner, and that would pull the other person off, and then I could ease right back up into their spot. I did that 2 or 3 times, but the closer I got to the top 3 cars, they were able to stay together a little better, so I'd fall right back. But that was kind of fun messing around with that, because that's what literally came into my mind was Stenhouse at Daytona, because that's exactly what I was doing. It was pretty fun. Fun race.
Yeah, we did notice you doing that, and that kind of leads me into my next question. Obviously, this racetrack, Progressive Super Speedway, encapsulates exactly what this racetrack is with the progressive banking. One thing that caught me by surprise when I saw you guys on pit road was you were changing tires. We normally don't see you guys do that at a super speedway. With the progressive banking, did that lead into more tire wear, forcing you drivers to have to take on that new rubber whenever you'd come to pit road?
Yeah, there was usually at Talladega, I will check when I have to get 2 cans, or at least a can and a half. I will change one side of the tires most of the time just to change them. I usually go right, left, whatever, or left, right. Just depending on how they're wearing. If I have to make any crazy stuff. But my right front was probably at about 60% on when I ran through it for 2 times. When I went into the pits, I looked at because I was debating on whether or not to take tires, and I hit F5 and I looked at my rights, and that right front was almost halfway gone. It was a little surprising that it was that much, and I guess it is the progressive banking, and of course, I was doing a lot of diving and moving and shaking around, and I guess that probably contributed to it. But I was surprised at the tire wear myself.
This is only your second start in the season. The first start that you made, Indianapolis, you went to victory lane. Obviously, we're well deep into the season. A lot of drivers trying to jostle for positioning here once we eventually get to the season finale. A few of them up there in that lead pack with you. Did that make things a little bit difficult in trying to find some allies to push you up to the front, since some drivers were points racing, but you're out there just trophy hunting tonight?
Yeah, I asked earlier on in the race who was in it, because I don't want to mess anybody's. That's what I hate about doing these part-time things, is I don't want to mess up somebody's season. And so I was a little worried about that. But as the packs kind of thinned out, I felt pretty confident that I could mess around with them and wouldn't cause anything. But yeah, I think Jeremy got a little bit of damage in that first wreck, and he led quite a bit after that wreck. But I could hear, I think Jeff asked him. He goes, "I think I do," because we started passing that line, and I think Jeremy was holding it up. So I think at that point, Jeremy was just a pusher, and me and Jeremy have raced together many times on super speedways, so we're comfortable with each other. So I think Jeremy just decided that he was going to push me whenever the opportunity came. So he was the only one that I really thought I could count on there at the end. I knew Doug was going to stick with Jeff. Well, that I don't know if they are teammates or consider themselves teammates, but I'm pretty sure you could call those guys teammates. So I knew to win, I was going to have to beat both of them, and just fell short.
Well, a great run for you here tonight nonetheless. Almost going 2 for 2 in your starts here in Season 60 of the Aero88 series, but a first and a second in your 2 starts isn't that all that bad. And in the conversation for this one here tonight, definitely. Congratulations on your second place finish here tonight at Progressive Super Speedway. Before we let you go, Rodney, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Thanks, Seth. I didn't realize that I'd won half of my races in the Aero88 series this season. That's it's pretty good with a 1.5 average finish. I'll take that. But thank you guys. Jack's in here with you. I'm looking forward to watching this. So thanks to Flatout Racing Network, RTG, the owners, Prime, Jeremy, Josh, and Sheck, all the drivers and admins here. Jeff and Ron are admitting this series. Thanks for what those guys do. And congrats, Jeff, on your win. Doug Katie, nice third. Josh and Tim, my cohorts on Thursday, tomorrow night. Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Barista Wickers, Andy's my RPM teammate. My dad, hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if he stayed up. He's not feeling very well, but Eric, I know Eric did. He sent me a text already, my cousin Eric. And Kevin, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Well, that's Rodney Sullivan, second place here tonight, the Progressive Super Speedway. Congratulations once again on the great run. And hey, best of luck tomorrow night. We're looking forward to seeing that 16-car grid get put together for the playoffs in tomorrow night's regular season finale.
Thanks, guys. Hope I get to talk to you again after the race tomorrow night.
Absolutely. That's Rodney Sullivan's runner-up finish here this evening. Interesting, as I look at the top 5 finishers, they talk about in super speedway racing, it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. Well, 4 of the top 5 didn't even start this race inside of the top 10. The only one that did started from the 3rd position, and we're going down to victory lane to talk with him now. Let's dial up 3-time winner on the season, Jeff Supta.
User was moved to your
Hey
channel.
Jeff, it's the guys up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Well, man, a short track to kick off the season, a road course a couple of weeks later, and now a super speedway here tonight. Kind of a jack of all trades here in the Aero88 series, just barely able to get your nose to the start-finish line ahead of Rodney Sullins. Definitely had to cover a lot of lanes and a lot of momentum in the rearview mirror. How difficult was it in the closing stages?
We were riding along, I think just the top 5 up in front. So we took a couple risks. I mean, I was just looking for a point stay to get ahead of Grant since he wasn't racing tonight and used a provisional. I just wanted to gain as much as I could, and the top 5 was exactly what I was shooting for. So I was working with Doug, and I just kept telling him, we're going to go high. Here, go with me. And I didn't think it was going to work as good as it did. Ended up passing, I think, 3 cars at the end. Next thing I know, it's 2 to go.
You mentioned about points racing, and we documented yourself, Jeremy, Doug, Katie, all up there in the top 5 in points. Rodney, Graham, and for a time, Greg, nowhere close to battling for the championship, so just out there trying to win. How did that kind of play into the moves that you made both offensively and defensively, knowing that about half the drivers that were in that lead group for the second half of this race didn't have nearly as much to lose as you did?
I mean, Jeremy's not out of it. He's too good to say that. But as long as they didn't have an 88 Gatorade on their car, I wasn't really looking at that.
Obviously, it'll be interesting to see. He had 30 points over Grant coming into tonight. It'll be interesting to see what the points gap is going into next week. 5 races still to go. Pikes Peak next week. Got a road course coming up, a lengthy triangular speedway. Got RTR Super Speedway setting the table for the finale at Edgewater. So a lot of really unique racetracks still coming up, unique configurations as well. If you could pick one racetrack out of those upcoming 5 that you're thinking, ooh, this might be a racetrack where I'm not certain if I'm all that confident that I can maintain or even extend my points lead over my competition, where would that be, and just how much effort goes into making sure that you're big picture racing at that particular venue?
It's definitely August 5th, the RTR Super Speedway. Super Speedways are just unknown. You never know. One bad pit stop, one bad move, and you're out of the race. So again, tonight with all the green flag pit stops, you saw how the field separated, and all you had to do is just have a little hiccup on pit road and you're out of it. Right points, I believe I'm back over 100 over him, 107 points above Grant, which is a lot more comfortable than where I've been the last few weeks.
You mentioned about pit road mistakes. Saw a couple of drivers fall prey to that as we had, I believe it was 3 cycles of pit stops under green flag conditions. Saw a number of drivers during practice put emphasis on practicing coming to pit road, but even then, with all the practice put in, this racetrack and that unique access road can find ways of biting you. How much effort was put in on your end as far as pit road was concerned? Because it looked like pretty much whoever was up there in the conversation for this checkered flag were the ones that were able to execute the best on those those green flag pit stop cycles.
I definitely practice it a lot. Unfortunately, the first, I don't know how many, say we pitted 5 times. The first 4, I was behind people and I was checking up and lifting a lot sooner than I normally would. And then the last pit stop, me and Doug went in all by ourselves. And I think I had coming out of pits, a huge lead, but I didn't have anybody to draft with. So, yeah, that was my best pit stop and I needed it at that time.
Well, getting the execution done on pit road, getting it done with the moves on the racetrack, and parking it in victory lane here tonight for your 3rd victory of the season. Congratulations on a job well done. Jeff will let you get back to your celebrating in victory lane in just a moment, but before we do, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
First and foremost, I want to thank Doug Katie for sticking with me. He was the Kenny Wallace for me tonight. You probably know what that means. But yeah, Doug stuck with me, and teammate for sure. Been racing with him since before I was at RTG for the last 15 years. So thanks, Doug, for sticking with me. This is your win too.
Well, Jeff, congratulations on the job well done here tonight. Able to open up that points gap going into these final 5 races of the season. Best of luck to you as you head to Pikes Peak, Pocono, Watkins Glen, RTR Super Speedway. We'll look forward to seeing what the championship battle looks like when we join you guys again later on next month at the finale at Edgewater.
All right, thanks.
That's Jeff Supta, the victor
User
here
was moved out of your
tonight.
channel.
I've talked with Jeff in the past, and he said super speedways are his Achilles heel. Well, I don't know. Here tonight, I don't know. There might be a little fiction into that statement as he's able to just barely edge out Rodney Sullins for the victory. But you heard him say it, and I just looked at the point standings. Indeed, from 30 points to now 107 points over Grant Wesley, who was not in the field here tonight. Says that it's a little bit more breathing space. However, you documented before we came on the air that coming into this race, Grant had won 4 out of the 5, and we've got 5 races left to go. Could we see Grant Wesley, upon his return, go on to one of those runs again and make it super close for the
User was moved
championship
out of your
by the time
channel.
we end up getting to... oh, hold on. I think my
User
broadcast...
joined your
There we
channel.
go.
I was dragged
You got
out by
accidentally moved.
I had TeamSpeak minimized. I look up and I'm inside the replay review room. I think they moved.
They need your opinion. They need your
Yeah.
opinion on something there.
They moved the wrong guy named Jay. I'll say.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I got the most of the gist of your question though, and yeah, I think Grant Wesley, if he is able to go on a run like that, which I certainly would not put past him, he's going to put all the pressure on Jeff Supta. Like I said a little bit earlier, we've talked to Jeff in the past before. He will not be 100% comfortable until he knows that mathematically there's no chance of him losing that championship.
So I'll pose this question to you because I rattled off the tracks that we're going to be going to here over the course of the next 4 weeks before we eventually cover the finale at Edgewater. Pikes Peak, Pocono, Watkins Glen, and RTR. Now, Jeff has a victory already this season at a road course at CTMP. Watkins Glen on the schedule here. He's been consistent this season. So far, 11 races concluded. He has finished every single one of those races inside of the top 10. But do we think that Supta needs to at least get one victory in the upcoming 4 races to keep Grant Wesley at bay and have enough breathing space to close out the deal once we cover the finale?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just a no-brainer in general, regardless of your point standings, whatever's going on right there. If you can get a win, absolutely go for any checkered flag you can get. That'll definitely put all sorts of pressure on Grant and just help you out a lot more in general, because regardless of what Grant does, if you're Jeff, you keep winning races, it's exactly the scenario you're looking for.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting month to keep track of here, as Jeff will look to continue to extend or at least maintain his points gap over Grant Wesley. Grant will look to eat back into that triple-digit point interval that he will have between himself and Jeff starting next week at Pikes Peak International. We will be covering on August 12th the finale from Edgewater Speedway. We'll see just how close that championship battle will be once we get to that venue. But we thank you all for joining us here tonight. Congratulations to Jeff Supta on picking up a photo finish victory over Rodney Sullins here this evening at the Progressive Super Speedway. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Again, we close out this week tomorrow night in collaboration with Tarnation TV. We will set the at least 16 driver grid for the chase for the championship in the Talladega Challenge Series. A number of drivers have already made themselves some pretty solid cases for locking themselves in, but there's a lot of names hovering around that 16th in the standings cut line. We're going to do our best to try and cover live points for you during the course of that race and get you a grid of who will be championship battling for 5 remaining races. That's all going down tomorrow night. Green flag scheduled to fly at 9 p.m. Standard Time. Collaboration simulcast here on FRN and Tarnation TV as well. But wild super speedway racing here tonight as well. Jack got treated to a thrilling photo finish in the closing stages. Please join me in the booth here tonight.
Fun as always. Glad we were able to get a photo finish out of it. That was a great race to call. And yeah, as you said, it should be a really tight battle. I believe at the Talladega Challenge, they're 9 for 9 in different race winners this season. So tomorrow I'm going to be tuning in for sure. That's going to be a great race.
See if the streak can continue to close out the regular season indeed. But again, we thank you all for joining us here tonight. We'll see you guys for the conclusion of this season, season 68 of the Aero88 series on August 12th, when we will be at the Edgewater Speedway. But until then, for Jack Mitchell, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for spending your Wednesday night with us as you've been watching the broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.